Hi ladies, and welcome to Unit 2, Effective Strategies for Improving Learning, where we're going to hopefully build on what we looked at in Unit 1. And we're going to, no we're not, sorry. We're going to consider what kinds of support we can use, how does this look in the classroom, and how can we help students develop greater independence. Okay. I think the very important thing that we need to think about is that all the research shows that our emphasis needs to be focused on supporting pupils to become more independent. We don't want to do everything for our children because we don't want them to learn helplessness. We don't want them to get into the habit of just sitting thinking, well, Miss So-and-so always helps me, so I automatically just look for help as soon as I get given a task. Okay, and two things that can help us in that regard are good feedback and metacognition and self-regulation. So if we look first at feedback, feedback is information given to the learner and or the teacher about the learner's performance relative to the learning goals. It should aim to and be capable of producing improvements in students' learning by redirecting or refocusing either the teacher's or the learner's actions to achieve a goal by aligning the effort and activity with an outcome. And feedback can be verbal or written, and it can be given through tests or ICT, or can come from a teacher, teaching assistant, or peer. All of these are really valuable ways of giving feedback. Feedback should always be specific, precise, and clear. For example, this was good because of the way you, as opposed to just correct or well done, or even worse, no, wrong. You need to compare what the learner is doing right now with what they have done wrong before. For example, I could see you were focused on improving X as it's much better than last time's Y. And encourage and support further effort, getting a balance between support and challenge to be given sparingly so that it is meaningful. Too much feedback in too much detail can stop learners from working out what they need to do for themselves. Okay, the feedback that we give to children should provide explicit guidance and improvement in how to, not just, as I've just said, not just tell them when they're wrong, but what can they do to get themselves back on the right path. You can support this with effective professional development for all staff. We can learn to give better and more effective feedback with everybody involved in the learning process. And wider research suggests that feedback should be about complex or challenging tasks or goals, high aspirations, as this is likely to emphasize the importance of effort and perseverance, as well as being more valued by learners. Okay, so in other words, show them how important your feedback is by making it about important things. Okay, and giving them the impression that everything that we do is important and has value. I'm just going to play you a video. Not there, sorry. Right. Let me just expand this. Okay.
So what's the toolkit effective feedback campaign had 9 months to develop and 1 year? Why does it have such a huge impact on them? I think there are a couple of points here. One is that the research suggests that that's a potential gain that's achievable. The research also suggests that it's actually quite hard to do well. I think why it's so effective is feedback is what helps a learner change what they were going to do. So it encourages them to focus their effort in a different place, or to attend to specific areas of maths or literacy that they're learning, and helps them hone in on what they can best do to improve. But what is it specifically about feedback that makes it important? Well, The evidence suggests that it needs to be specific. So giving pupils examples of what it is they need to do to improve at a very detailed level in terms of their work. And if it's even better if that's referenced to something they were doing before and now doing better, so you're showing them what they're improving. It should be given reasonably sparingly so that it's meaningful, so that you're not always telling people what they've got to do, but you kind of hone in on what will make the most difference to encourage them. It should also support them in attributing their improvement to effort rather than to ability, so that they're aware that they need to focus and work hard on bringing about improvement.
Okay. So, sorry, that just reiterates what I was just reading out to you about effective feedback. So, can you just have a think, about what do you think is effective feedback? What do you think is valuable to share with the children? And how does this compare, do you think, with the feedback that students currently get at our school? Is there something that could be done to support students by giving feedback that's specific, accurate and clear? Are there ways that we can improve that? What sort of vocabulary or language could be used effectively? And what do we need to do or change to ensure that students get more effective feedback more often? How do we manage to fit that into the busy day? If you pause the video for a moment and just have a think about that and maybe jot down some ideas. Okay, so one of the ways that we can improve our feedback is by specifically targeting and teaching the children metacognition. Now, metacognition and self-regulation strategies are specifically teaching the children to think about learning explicitly, to think about the steps they need to take. Okay? Usually by teaching learners specific strategies like this, we help them to set goals and to monitor and evaluate their own learning, rather than always being directed by us. The more that the children can think of this for themselves, the better for them. It involves being aware of one's strengths and weaknesses as a learner, such as by developing self-assessment skills and being able to set and monitor goals. And, let me move my picture out of the way, sorry. It means having a range of strategies to choose from or to switch to during learning activities, if you like, a menu of different things that you as a learner can try to get where you need to go. So obviously, children don't just suddenly become able to do this. We actually have to specifically teach them metacognition strategies, teach them specifically how we learn and how we talk about learning and how we think about learning, so that they can get to this point on their own. Okay, and as it sounds, this is not necessarily easy and straightforward. Okay, research suggests that developing these skills should teach that approaches which encourage the learner to plan, monitor and evaluate their learning have very high potential, but require careful implementation. So we really do need to think about it carefully before we embark on this. If we teach learners explicit strategies to plan, to monitor and to evaluate them learning, and give them opportunities to use them with support, first of all, and then independently, then we're giving them a great deal of help. When we use, when using approaches for planning, We need to ask learners to identify the different ways that they could plan, which gives them general strategies, and about the best approach for a particular task, which might be a specific technique for that particular task. And monitoring involves identifying the key steps that the students need to be aware of as they go through a task to keep it on track. Where might this go wrong? What will be the difficult parts? How will I get started? What information do I need to know? All these as examples. So evaluating can be part of the process of checking so that it feeds into the current task as it nears completion. Can you make it better? Are you sure this is right? And it can feed forward into future tasks. What have you learned that will change what you do next time? And I have another video from Professor Higgins. Okay.
One of the chapters in the book is about metacognition and self-regulation. Now, this is a bit of educational jargon. Metacognition basically is about encouraging learners to take responsibility for planning, monitoring, and evaluating their own learning. Self-regulation is similar, but it's about the motivational parts of learning, so how they manage their resilience or their stickability. It's a key feature of successful learning that learners take responsibility for aspects of their own learning. The chapter's called Thinking for Yourself, and it's about how, as professional educators, we transfer that responsibility so learners can plan, monitor, and review their own learning, and can manage that perseverance and resilience. When that's done successfully, typically, learners can make an additional 7 or 8 months progress in a year by taking that responsibility. The key part of that is teaching strategies that learners can use so they can select the best ways to manage and monitor their own learning.
So again, if you could take some time just to think, what have you understood that metacognition is? What might it look like in your school or your setting, in our classrooms? And what do you think could be done to support students' thinking and ability to plan, monitor, and evaluate their learning? When I join you for the next video, I'll look in more depth at metacognition and see if we can work out a few strategies for how we could use it. Okay, thanks guys.